Of what you saw from the Giants on Sunday night, that's what they're going to do 2 straight weeks?
How much can I trust it? I don't know. I mean, they got another week to adjust. They got another week to install plays. So who knows? It's the NFL. Every week, some teams are totally different in their personnel and the way they attack defenses from week to week. So they can go from being a majority 12 personnel team against Denver to all 11. I think Shepard is back this week, so I'm sure they'll integrate him in some way or another. I'm sure they'll get the running backs more involved because they're all healthy. So things change week to week, but we'll study it all.
Richard, how did it come about? You visited the young girl at the hospital down there and gave her the toy. How did that all come about? What was that experience?
Well, they had tweeted me that she had lost her doll, and so I reached out to the hospital, and a lady named Jen reached back out to me, and we coordinated the details. Couldn't do Wednesday, which the day I was going to go, because we had previous obligations. So we went Thursday morning and took the kids because, we had the kids and all that. So we just kind of got in the car and went.
Just how was that experience?
It was fun, man. She has a great spirit about her. Had a great time hanging with her. She had a great family. We're going to bring her to the Houston game. But they were good people, man. It was fun. It's I think she lifted my spirits more than I lifted hers. I mean, she was such a happy-go-lucky little girl. Every time she turned around, she was glowing and smiling and laughing. Then her and my kids were having a good old time. They didn't have a care in the world, so it was a good time, man. I didn't really think about it as being a big deal. They kind of filmed it and everything, and made it a big deal. But it was just cool to hang out with her and see her, and now try to brighten her day a little bit.
Did you know there was such thing as a Shermy doll?
I did not. I did not. But she said I was the real Sherman. So I took that. I took some solace in that. But yeah, she was really attached to it. And even after all that, she was like, "Okay, this is nice. You got my doll?" I said, "I'm going to bring one to the game. Don't worry about it. I got you. I wanted to make sure you came to the game. I'll give her a Shermy doll, then you never hear from her again."
Do people's reactions to you ever surprise you? I mean, does it still catch you off guard when you see just how excited she was to see you?
It does. It does just about every time. I mean, that was just, it was so pure and so genuine, so innocent. She turned around and was like genuinely surprised that not that I was there, but that I existed. She was like, it was fun, man. I think there's nothing better than a kid's smile and the kid's innocence, and she was the embodiment of it. And so it was a fantastic experience for me as much as it was for her.
Richard, you know Doug about as well as anyone. He's this guy. I mean, he just did a piece on NPR where he says he's got 2 pages front and back of people he's been meeting with and all the things he's been dedicated to. I'm curious, just how have you seen him evolve over the years and to the guy he is right now?
Well, Doug is an incredible person and basically all aspects of his life. I think football is actually the one of the smaller parts of who he is and what he's about, and he has an incredible intellect and incredible ability to reach people and to follow through on things that he wants to. People always say I'm going to be in politics, but I would guess Doug's going to beat me to politics. That's much more of his style. But I think what he's doing with Goodell and that is fantastic. He's been doing that work for years now. Meeting with police and trying to work to change. And I think that's what gets missed sometimes with players, because they're like, "Oh, stick to sports, stick to this." It's like, well, a lot of people have used the phrase like privileged athletes. All these privileged athletes, you guys are rich millionaires. And it's like, well, 7 years ago, I had negative $45 in my account. What was I then? You know what I mean? I was still a black guy. I was still a kid from the hood. And we will never forget those moments. So what privilege do we have? The privilege to be blessed that our hard work and dedication paid off. And we were able to change our families' lives, to change our lives, and to live better. But that doesn't change our memories, what we remember happening, our childhood. And I think that's something that sticks true to him as well, and sticks true to a lot of players. That's why guys are so passionate about coming together and making a difference and making a stand and doing everything they can in terms of making a difference for social injustice. Because no matter what, before we had all this money and after we're dead and gone, I mean, our skin is still black. We'll, still be looked at a certain way. And all we want is equality for everyone. And I don't think that's too much to ask. And it's just great to have a guy like Doug, continuing that fight and continuing to take it beyond what others have done.
Richard, the meeting is going on today, Tuesday, between the owners and the players to talk about Anthem. What do you think is realistic to come out of that? What would be your aspiration without thinking they're going to solve, really big pictures in one meeting?
Well, I think the statement that they came out with and them working on legislation, I think at the end of the day, legislation is the only thing that anybody respects or understands. And if you get legislation that helps to even things out, to help small time offenders and petty offenders and things like that, to just a lot of times guys are pulled over in the inner city a lot more than in regular suburban cities because that's where they patrol. You might have 10 cars in a suburban city and 50 in the inner city. And it's not because the population is that much greater or that much more dense. It's just because they think more crime goes on. And if you're looking for more crime, you'll find what you're looking for anywhere if you're looking for it. And I think that it's going to go a long way to just keep more black men out of jails, and that will help more black fathers be in the home. And that'll make a big difference in these kids' lives. I think that's a huge problem in America is fatherless homes. And sometimes it's just circumstantial. Guy makes a mistake, and this guy makes a mistake in a suburban neighborhood. It's a couple months, a couple weeks, or just slap on the wrist. The guy makes the same mistake in the inner city, and you're in jail for 2-3 years just because of your circumstance. And I think that's what they're working to change.
Do you think no matter what the end game, that the mere fact the NFL is now involved at the top means that this movement's working?
Yeah, I think it says a lot about them caring about their players. I mean, you could say whatever you want to say about what Jerry Jones said because, that wasn't necessarily the best way to put anything or the best way to say anything or the best way to get your message across. But I think for the owners to agree to meet with the players and to really attack this issue at its head and it not have anything to do with money or anything, obviously they want the protests to stop, so that people can get back to football, but that can stop in a lot of ways. They can be, they can stop it if they really wanted to, but they're really looking for solutions, and we can appreciate that. I think that's a big step by them.
Richard, Colin Kaepernick filed a grievance recently. Are you surprised that even with so many starting quarterbacks going down, that he's never doesn't sound like even a phone call?
No, I'm not that surprised. This league is odd in that way. I think they had a point to make and they made it. What is odd is that the kind of frustration you hear in people saying that they don't want him as their quarterback. It's okay to say, hey, no, he's not for us. He's not our guy. But some people are vehemently, saying no. It's like, well, you could just say no. He's not a bad player. It's not like we're talking about a guy who's never won football games, never took his team to a Super Bowl. There's quarterbacks out there that's never taken their team to the playoffs, never had a winning record, that have jobs, that are starting in this league. And, you hear every excuse in the world. It's not this system. This system doesn't work for them. These quarterbacks are terrible in any system. There's quarterbacks that are bad in every system. And so what? Then you hear, these coaches and scouts are like, well, we didn't like him coming out of college. What? People didn't like Tom Brady coming out of college. He went 6th round. Like, these people aren't know-it-alls, you know what I mean? They don't know everything. These scouts don't know everything. Aaron Rodgers fell to 24. How many people would turn around and regret that decision? People should be losing their jobs because they're idiots. But you've heard every excuse in the book for why he doesn't have a job, but you see what it is. They've agreed not to get him a job, and it is what it is. But this is also the same league that during the lockout year, the uncapped year, where, a couple teams, I think it was the Redskins in Dallas, spent a little more money than the other teams. But it's an uncapped year. You can spend as much as you want. You can spend $200 million if you wanted to. But when there's an agreement between people and somebody spends more and they go past that agreement, then people lose draft picks and get fined. And you're like, how did they get fined and lose draft picks doing something that was an uncapped year? You know, so there's a lot of, but that case didn't go through. That wasn't collusion. That was the most obvious case I've ever seen, and they didn't win. Nobody got caught. No slap on the hand. No nothing. So I think he'd have a hard time winning.
If an arbiter would find collusion, how intrigued are you or the union that the CBA could be nullified because of that?
Not that intrigued. I highly doubtful. Now, if it comes to a head, then I'm sure we'll have an emergency meeting. But I don't think anybody sees that as the end goal or as a real likely possibility.
You mentioned Jerry Jones. Have the Seahawks ever told you guys anything about what they want you to do for the anthem or anything like that?
No. Our team is as loosey-goosey as they come. We got a very, as the politicians would say, liberal team and ownership, because those things matter nowadays. You're liberal or you're conservative, or you're alt-left or you're alt-right. It's like what happened to human beings, but whatever. Story for a different day.
How appreciative are you to have an owner who doesn't come out and do what others do?
I'm appreciative. I think we have probably the best owner in the league, not just because of what he does for us, but what he does as a philanthropist, as a human being, what he does for humanity. He does a lot of things that just help people move forward. He's doing brain research. He's donating hundreds of millions of dollars to help people. When the real tell of a person is when you give and do things for people who can't do anything for you. He's giving money that he doesn't expect to see back. He's not going to do anything to help him. I'm sure he's doing everything in his power to make sure he's healthy, so it's not, to help him in a selfish way, but he just wants to help humanity, and that's awesome to see, and we appreciate that. And I think people should appreciate that more, because it's more than just a game. It's more than, we're people at the end of the day. All human beings, you're put here to make the world a better place, not just your own life.
Richard, sorry to backtrack a little bit, but question about the Giants, going back to them. What have you seen out of how they're using the rookie tight end, Evan Ingram?
Well, they're definitely using it more now that they lost, Odell and B. Marsh, and Dwayne, Shepard. That once you lose all those weapons, he's the guy. But they were finding creative ways to get him open against the Broncos. They were running crossing patterns, stick nods. They were really featuring him. So we'll obviously have to be aware of him, and he was taking advantage of his opportunities. So we'll have to make sure we know where he is at all times.
Anything else?
Thank you.